I'm Brandon Boner from On Focus, and we are at the Marshfield Fire and Rescue Department for a live coverage of the press conference regarding the Wesley United Methodist Church fire that took place this Sunday afternoon. We're going to hear from an official here at the Marshfield Fire Department on what caused the blaze, so stay tuned with us.
I'm Scott Owen, Fire Chief for the City of Marshfield Fire and Rescue Department. We are here just to provide an update on the church fire that happened on Sunday, September 2nd, 2018, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The investigation into the fire is now complete. Our department, the Fire Department investigators, Wood County Fire Investigation Task Force, along with the State Fire Marshal, completed the investigation on Monday about 8 p.m. or so. Based on the results, they have come to a determination on what happened. The public sector responsibility when it comes to fire investigations is to determine if it's criminal or not criminal in nature. This particular fire at the conclusion was deemed not criminal. It was determined that the fire started somewhere in the kitchen, and the actual cause remains as undetermined. Without doing deep digging, a lot of rubble removal, it's very difficult to ascertain exactly what happened. The building was turned back over to the pastor and the insurance company, and now the insurance company is deciding if they are going to perform the dig out and look for a cause, or if they're going to go with what the State Fire Marshal came up with as undetermined. The building is being protected by a fence. I'm not sure if it's up right now, but it is in the process. I guess from there, I will take any questions that anyone may have.
Was there any conclusion on how many man hours that you had to fight that fire, or what type of response staff was there at any peak one time?
So the fire department between Marshfield, Richfield, and Hewitt had about 32 firefighters there during the suppression efforts. We maintained a fire watch all night. 2 firefighters rotated every few hours to make sure there were no smoldering fires, to keep control of the building until the State Fire Marshal could get in. The hours, like I say, the call came in about 2, and everybody was back here 11-ish, with the exception of the night watch people. Again, the next day, investigation started about 7 a.m. when the State Fire Marshal arrived, and Deputy Chief Troy Weiland left the station at 8 p.m. when they were finished. Some may have noticed the state did bring in a dog. They brought in an accelerant dog, and that was really because of the amount of debris and the amount of rubble. That was an easy way to determine if there was any type of accelerant in the area, and the dog came back that there wasn't. Again, the fire was ruled undetermined, not criminal in nature, and I guess from there we'll wait to see what the insurance company does.
How do you guys determine that, you know that it started in the kitchen? I mean, I know it's a pretty, simple process, but maybe just take us through that process.
Sure. So fire investigation in and of itself is a complex process, but it's a very scientific process. They start from where they noticed the fire coming out at first. So in this particular case, it was the kitchen window on 3rd Street. The investigators kind of start in that area, see where the fire spread based on burn patterns, based on heat, different markings throughout the building, and then they start pinpointing it down to different areas. They check appliances, they check everything, and everything is just done in a very systematic fashion, not only with our department, but we also did have investigators from the police department in, because we have to have them in play until it's ruled that it's not criminal.
Is it standard to bring in the state fire marshal's office?
It is for either a fatal fire or a high dollar loss. With this particular fire, because it was a church, that was one that Deputy Chief Weiland had wanted external investigators to come in. There are directions out there that in the event of a fire in a church, ATF is to be notified. And that's primarily because they want to make sure that it's not a hate crime type of thing. My understanding is DCI, or the State Fire Marshal, contacted ATF and said, we don't think it is, it's not an issue.
Did you put a dollar estimate on the damage or the losses?
Not yet. Deputy Chief Weiland is trying to get what the building is worth. So until he gets that, he can't really put down the damage estimate. We did use significant amounts of water. It's estimated about 700,000 gallons of water was used on that fire. And of course, all the personnel on scene and the time spent.
And then we don't know, based on what they're going to decide to do in terms of trying to find the exact origin or cause of that fire. You don't know when the rest of that structure might be demolished, or the site might be cleaned up, or I'm not sure what happens. Yeah,
not really. Again, like I said, it's up to the insurance investigators now what they're going to do. If they decide to do a dig out, it probably wouldn't happen until next week. Because their structural engineer is not available till next week. If they decide not to do the dig out and go with the undetermined cause that the state and our crews came up with, you very easily could see that come down, within 2 weeks. It's really dependent on what the insurance investigators are going to do.
You guys use, most fires are kind of a learning, you use them probably as a learning tool.
We do.
I don't know, was there anything about this particular fire that you used to, did you learn anything from it in terms of fighting this fire, or were there things that maybe, younger, less seasoned firefighters maybe saw for the first time and they learned, some things on this
Sure.
one?
Yeah, we learn from every fire. After every fire, we do an after-action review. The shift gets together, the commander talks about it. They go over what went right, what didn't go so well. As far as I know, this church fire was the first for almost everyone here. I don't know that anyone was here when OLP had their fire many, many years ago. So this was a large fire. It was definitely a learning curve. The fire spread so fast inside that structure. The entry crew did definitely get to feel the heat in that building, which many of them have not felt heat to that degree in the past. But it was interesting.
Yeah, and Deputy Chief Weiland said they quickly went from an offensive to a defensive attack.
Correct.
Even though you guys are seconds away, literally a couple blocks from the scene of that
Correct.
fire, even a quicker response, wouldn't have made a difference? No,
the quicker response wouldn't have made a difference. It was estimated that the fire had been burning for a period of time prior to the 911 call. And even if we would have been next door, it would have been very, very tough. The other fact of it is we did have an ambulance out of the station. We had 8 people on duty. We had 2 on an ambulance call. So we started fighting this fire with 6 people. And 6 in a house fire is difficult. 6 in a church is nearly impossible. But they did a great job setting up and trying to contain it. We were able to save the residences all around, which is definitely a bonus.
How do you do that? Do you just soak them down right away, or those houses?
Yeah, we had certain crews putting water on those structures or between them. We use what's called sometimes a water curtain, and that prevents the radiant heat from going over into those structures and getting them to the point of ignition.
With the amount of social media attention, does it change the way you might communicate with the public in the future, or even how your staff communicates with their families during a fire or after a fire?
Social media definitely has changed the way that we deal with incidents. Again, I wasn't at the fire, but I was told that when Deputy Chief Weiland turned around, there were thousands of people watching. Everybody had a phone going, and it's kind of nerve-wracking at times when you see that. But the crews did really great. They tuned them out. The downside to social media is really for our firefighters' spouses or significant others. When we had a house fire before, they didn't really see what was going on, so they felt pretty safe. The spouses did. Now that they can see it all going on and the fire blowing out the window, of course, right away they're thinking, "Oh my gosh, is everybody okay? How's my person?" We did have a couple of spouses come down to the fire scene to bring some stuff and to make sure everybody was okay. But it definitely has changed the way that we do that type of stuff. We are looking at some different options on notifying different entities when these larger fires occur. Being a holiday weekend, again, I was out of town. Most of the command staff was out of town. I was very fortunate to have Deputy Chief Weiland as the commander, as well as Deputy Chief Jody Clements, who came in and helped man the station, and then eventually took over command of the fire for a little while. But there's always something to learn on anything we do. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Listening to Chief Owen talk about the fire that took place on Sunday, we definitely have some answers. There's still some uncertainty on what actually caused the fire, but we do know it originated in the kitchen. I'm Brandon Boner for On Focus, and thank you for tuning in. If you love what we're doing, hit that like button on top or at the bottom and subscribe to our channel. We'll continue to give you the exclusive coverage that you deserve in the Marshfield community. Until we see each other again.